Hi everyone, welcome to my channel if you're new here, welcome back to my channel if you're a returning viewer or subscriber. Okay. Take 3. In today's video I'm going to be filming a giant book haul, but the twist is that this book haul is all Kindle books. I usually include ebooks and audiobooks in my big book hauls that are made up of mostly physical books, but this is a special case. The problem is that I limit my book hauls to 15 books per video. I always go in order of what book I bought first, and then second and third and fourth. So I go back in time and I start at the beginning and then I go forward 15 books. But the thing is that I bought like 18, maybe less, maybe more than that, in a row, which meant that I would be filming an entire video plus some more just focused on Kindle books, just in a regular book haul. So what I've done is I've combined every single Kindle book that I've recently bought up until today, which is Wednesday, 8th of November, and so that's what you will be seeing in this video. So why do you have so many Kindle books, you might be asking? If you're new to my channel, you wouldn't know this already, but basically I only buy Kindle books if they're in Kindle monthly or daily deal, which means I'm only paying between like 99 pence and like £1.99 maximum, you know. But actually a bunch of these were free, and that's because there was an event a couple of months ago, or a month ago, I don't remember the exact date, but there's this event called Stuff Your Kindle Day, which I think happens biannually, and I definitely recommend like kind of getting on it if you're interested, because free books, like who doesn't want free books? I don't remember anything about it basically, but I'll link all the details down below. This is a day or a couple of days where a bunch of romance ebooks go on sale, as in like they become free. Don't get your hopes up because there won't really be anything you've ever heard of, but I still think it's an event that's worth paying attention to, because you may as well, you know, pick some titles up, and if you find something that you love, then all the better for it because it was free. So I'm going to make the first kind of half of this video about those, then I'm going to get on into the Kindle books that I actually paid money for. They're titles that you are more likely to recognise. So the general criteria for the books that I picked up were that they were fae, loved fairies as a child, loved fairies as a teenager into adults. I blame, you know, like the Flower Fairy books, Spiderwick, and then ACOTAR. When I was like 18, that was the moment that I got, you know, I was lost for real. I've always been obsessed with fae. I also wanted a good cover. Some of these covers are tragic. I was not willing to put a tragic cover up on the screen of my videos. That's so stupid, but that was something that was drawing me in, because literally you're picking from like tens of thousands of titles. Like you have to have something that's like stopping you a little bit. Then again, like the Kindle space is basically unlimited. You can have so many books in there. Also, if I hate them, I can just remove them from the Kindle. Then my third criteria was that it was short. I was not going to be slogging through an 800-page Kindle book, which is probably not very good. Fae, good cover, short. So the first book I have to mention is Heart of Silk and Shadows by Lattes Marshall. This is a book that I have actually already read. This book has a little bit of a complicated plot, so I'm going to basically leave it because we've got so many books to get through, and I would recommend checking out my previous video, which was a wrap-up in which I fully discussed thoughts and feelings. I did enjoy the book overall. It's a fun, good time. Gave it 3.5 stars. That was basically the one book I had heard of, and that's because I followed this girl called Kat Karras. I'll have the channel link down below. Followed her since like 2016 or something. I don't know, like basically the start of her channel. She has recently, not recently, but like over the past few years, got really into Kindle Unlimited romances. So that is that. And that's book 0.5 in a trilogy. So it's like a novella that you read before you start the trilogy. Not sure that I'll pick up the rest of the books, but that's that one for now. So the rest of the books I actually will tell you the synopsis for. The next book is To Carve a Fae Heart by Desonia Odette. It has fae in the title. It's got kind of an interesting cover. That was where I picked up basically. Every young woman dreams of marrying a king, everyone except for me, because the king I'm wed to has razor-sharp fangs and a thirst for blood. To Carve a Fae Heart is an enemies to lovers fantasy, perfect for fans of The Cruel Prince, ACOTAR, The Iron King. The Cruel Prince, one of my favourite series. ACOTAR, one of my favourite series. The Iron King has been on my TBR ever since it came out basically. If you like snarky fae, brooding fae royals, sizzling romance and fierce heroines, you'll love this breathtaking fae fantasy. You can see why I bought it. If I don't marry him, no one is safe, neither human nor fae. An ancient war will return, bringing devastation we haven't seen in 1,000 years. Can I sacrifice myself for the good of my people, or will a dangerous desire be the death of me first? If I don't lose my heart, the king will certainly lose his. I'll carve it out with an iron blade if I have to. Kind of fun, not gonna lie. And that's the first book in a trilogy, thank goodness, because that's the other thing with Stuff Your Kindle Day is that sometimes they'll just give you like book 5 out of like a 10 book series, which is great. So I did try and avoid those cases. Next I got Curse of Shadows and Thorns by L.J. Andrews. This is book 1 in a 9-part series, which is slightly terrifying, but I'm sure this is short, so there you go. A bargain between enemies, a curse without an end, a love that will bring a kingdom to its knees. Long ago, Elisa's ancestors stole the crown from the Fae King. We've got fairies, of course we do. What else would be here? Questions rise over who has the true right to the throne. When answers come, more lives are put at stake, and Elise is forced to make an impossible choice. Avoid a bloody game by leaving Legion to the beast within, or end his curse and restore magic to the land by sacrificing a life. So this is obviously quite clearly a Beauty and the Beast retelling, which I also love to see because that's what Avatar originally was, and it's also a fairy tale that I've been obsessed with since I was a child. Then I got Music of the Night by Angela J. Ford. I think that's what the title is. This is a very... my cat is literally spying me through like the crack of my door. Hello, Ernest. Hi, cutie boy. What do you want? Do you want me to play with you? He's in a funny mood this morning. Like, he just wants to play constantly. This book is a... really terrible, apparently, Phantom of the Opera retelling. I love the love story in Phantom of the Opera. Like, I went to see the performance in a theatre in London and it was just beautiful. It's like heartbreaking and so... oh my gosh, I was brought to like the verge of tears. Like, I had tears in my eyes. Love it. Anything where we can like further delve into that story, that particular love story, I'd love to see it. So that is what prompted me to pick up this book. I have since gone into Goodreads, have seen some people I follow had read this and hadn't enjoyed it. So, I mean, as in they've given it like 1 star. So this is gonna be interesting. Hi, sweet one. He's just come in here. I got a 2-second clip of him itching himself before my phone crashed and he walked out my room. This is also apparently a dark romance. That's the thing, is like when I was just like blindly picking up these books, I was not really considering their full synopses, which meant that I ended up with a book, which I'll talk about in a second. It's a shifter romance and the queen is married to a dragon. Apparently shifter romance, that's a thing within romantasy books, like a subgenre. Interesting concept. I'm not hating on anyone who likes that though, because you know, I like fairies for goodness sake. On These Black Sands by Vanessa Rasinen. This is a pirate book. Say less. It's about a pirate who falls in love, I think, with a stowaway, something along those lines. This high seas tale of deceit, legends and love delivers a delicious grey hero, a relatable heroine and a found family you'll root for. Tick, tick, tick. An enemies to lovers story with a slow burn romance. Oh my gosh, it's a 1-word trope. This is book 1 of a trilogy and it ends on a cliffhanger, but it's worth it. I will be the judge of that, no jokes. It looks good. I also think I'd heard of it before, which is a good sign. I'm also constantly on the lookout for a pirate book. So I know this doesn't have fae, but explains that. This involves like a little bit of explaining. So basically there's this massive series, it has so many books, I don't even know how many, but basically what happened is every single book is an interconnected standalone. You should read them in order, but it doesn't really matter to read them out of order. So they had some of the books in the series available on Stuff Your Kindle Day. So I picked up as many as I could, not really knowing anything about them. They just had fun covers and something must have vaguely... oh, they were fae. That vaguely interested me. Turns out that... something just dropped from my ceiling. Turns out that this is shifter romance. I think past me would have thought like if I was ever going to get into that I might dip my toes into that first instead of being fully like dunked in the deep end and submerged, but we took the second route. Different authors who were already kind of well established within romantasy, not ones I'd ever heard of, but I guess like ones who churn out a lot of probably ebooks, wrote one of these titles, and so I was expecting good things. Unfortunately, read one of them and so the first one I picked up was Bound by Treason by Eliza Tilton, which is actually book 1 in the series, thank goodness. First book in the Starry Kingdoms of Fae collection. These books are all standalones written by your favourite fantasy authors and are perfect reads for your summer vacation. It didn't really give summer vibes, but sure. Prepare to be swept away into magical worlds and tropes you obsess over and swoon-worthy romances. Bound by Treason involved the dragon shifter. The writing was really not good, and I ended up giving it 2 stars. So I don't have high hopes for the rest of this series, but they were all written by different authors, so maybe the writing will like vary from book to book. So I got Bound by Treason, Bound by Watchers, which is book 3, Bound by Dragons, which is book 5, Bound by Ravens, which is book 7, Bound by Death, I think. Yeah, which is book 10. Is it the final book? Doesn't say. I will obviously mention Bound by Treason in my November wrap up. What I will say for now is that if you're thinking of getting into like some fun romantasy, this is very much just a fantasy. There's not much romance. The writing's also not good, and also the other thing is there are so many creatures. Witches, fairies, goblins, vampires, like probably werewolves, dragons. They're like, oh, like remember the pixies? And I was like, pixies? Like we're just, you know, so I got all of those anyways. Next up I picked up Wicked Court by May Sage, which is book 1 of 2 books. For as long as I can remember, I've had to hide who I am, what I am. They had me play the sheep, they had me blend in, they marked me and sealed my power. Now I have my freedom because everyone who's ever wanted me confined is dead. I could have changed it, I could have altered the course of fate. I could have saved the unseelie queen. I didn't. Valari has always known her place, as far away from court as the unseelie queen can send her. The youngest royal born in an impoverished household, she endeavoured to earn her keep as an assistant. Her aspiration? Avoiding the popular crowd of gentry fae who prey on the weak and their dark, enticing leader, mysterious Drusk. Until the world implodes around her, she has two options: fade with the rest of the unseelie kingdom, or protect a court that has never cared for her. Standard fae story, we'd love to see it. Next, I picked up a book called The Sacrifice. This, I mean, I should have seen that title, but clearly I was not looking at that. I was just seeing like probably some buzzwords that had like fae in it, enemies to lovers or something. This I believe is a dark romance. Whether I'll read this is probably quite unlikely because I'm not a dark romance girly. I don't know whether I'll even try this. I might look at some reviews first and see, because that's just really not my thing. So I'm an idiot basically, because like The Sacrifice, I should have known something was going on there. Next I got Kingdoms of Shadows and Ash by H.R. Moore, which is book 1 in a duology, but it's book 1, and then there's a novella, and then it's book 2, and then there's a novella. So it's actually kind of 4 books. Action-packed from the start with twists, intrigue, and dangerous politics. Kingdoms of Shadow and Ash is a sexy new fantasy series perfect for fans of Jennifer L. Armentrout. Don't like her. Sarah J. Maas, love her. And Daniel L. Jensen, who I've always wanted to read books from. Legend states that when a ruler worthy of the name reunites the 5 kingdoms, the dragons will return. Fire has done just that, and now she wants her dragons. But the dragon eggs are missing. Their 5 war-ravaged kingdoms are unhappy bedfellows, and calls for her to marry grow even louder. The king of the reclusive backwoods can't afford to dream of dragons. His kingdom is a frozen wasteland, and his people's prosperity rests on the trade of a single prize item. So when Fire brazenly walks into his lands, the last thing he plans to do is help her. In fact, he plans to bring her down a peg or two. But Fire hasn't come this far by taking no for an answer, and she seeks the dragon egg anyway, leaving the king with little choice but to follow her into the frozen, barren north. Soon she's wondering what secrets lie behind his brooding gaze, but their quest becomes dangerous, entwining them in a plot that threatens to strip away everything she's worked hard for. The king proposes a solution, one he sees as obvious, but for Fire it means embracing the one thing she swore she never would. I think this might be marriage and convenience. Don't know, but that's kind of what it's giving. Action-packed from the start, big fantasy world building meets steamy romance in Kingdoms of Shadow and Ash, the first book in a sweeping fantasy romance trilogy with fae, magic, political intrigue, and a quest for dragons that's sure to steal your heart. I'm sold. Then I got Hearts Lost. Not gonna lie to you everybody, I could not find this book on Goodreads, so I don't know what I purchased. If you see a picture on the screen right now, that's what it will have been. I don't know anything about this. There you go. This one's a little bit different. This is Wolves and Daggers, which is a Red Riding Hood retelling. Book 1 of 6. 6 books, don't think that's going to be happening, but we shall see. Who's afraid of the big bad werewolf? When London's brightest tinkers and alchemists come up missing, Agent Clemeny Louvel is on the case. To help her get the problem in hand, Queen Victoria, okay Queen, assigns her a temporary partner, a werewolf with a knightly history and a tendency to be far too flirtatious for either of their good. Can she trust him to help her chase down the monsters they're hunting? Wolves and Daggers is a retelling the Little Red Riding Hood fairy tale set in Melanie Karzak's best-selling steampunk universe. I don't like steampunk. Why did I not know about that? Not thrilled, to be honest. Who cares? Like, it was free. I think I'm forgetting that because I can truly just delete it off my Kindle. That's a very different vibe. That is a book that I could potentially read at some point in the future. A Crown of Ash and Silver. Pretty sure it had a fun cover. I think the art was kind of fun. After striking a deal with a slimy merchant, Aurelie Kane's life is forever changed. Traded to the Fae to maintain peace between the two realms, she finds herself thrust into a world of myth and chaos. When her captor has plans to sell her hand in marriage in exchange for his own personal gain, she must decide whether she will sit and wait or stand and fight. Seeking anything that will get her out of this arrangement, Aurelie confides in the bodyguard assigned to her by the cruelest man she's ever known. As she uncovers the truth of her bloodlines and magic, she discovers that her quiet guard has more than a few secrets of his own. Together they dig up a forgotten evil, and Aurelie finds that cold death shines brighter than the summer sun, and the good she once knew is no better than poison in her heart. If the author wrote this synopsis or whatever, or some person involved in the process of this book, I feel like this one could actually have some decent writing. One thing rings true despite the chaos that surrounds her. The Winter Court King has returned from the ashes, and he would burn for her even if it meant losing the throne he desired more than anything else. He'd light the torch and watch the sky turn grey if it meant keeping her safe. To uphold a treaty of death or to resurrect a hidden evil, her choice could be enough to tear apart kingdoms. It says it's going to be a series, I'm not sure how many books. I'll see how that one goes. I do have a little bit more hope for that one. The fact that authors actually bothered to get some good art done on the cover, commission someone, or maybe they're the artists themselves, gives me higher hopes. Next I got When Wishes Bleed by Casey L. Bond. This book is book 1 of 2. Yes, 1 of 2. Once again a duology, and I like the cover. It was different from the others I'd seen. One prince, one witch, one fate. Fate, one fate. The upheaval of life began the moment a prince stumbled into my house and asked me to read his fortune. Any other night I might have made an excuse to get him to leave, but this was no normal visit. My fingers prickled to touch him. right? So I granted his request by handing him a single wishbone. When he snapped it, the wish bled. Hearing me suck in a shocked breath, he asked what it meant. Such an ominous omen could only mean one thing. His death was imminent. Fate revealed that he wouldn't die of natural causes. Someone wanted him dead. Stunned by the revelation, the man I now knew as Prince Tauren disappeared into a night I feared he wouldn't survive. The following day I received an invitation to the castle. While it seemed the prince believed I could intervene and uncover who was plotting his death, his motives didn't stop there. I was being summoned to join 12 other women and vying for the opportunity to be his wife and future queen. That is so weird. Call in the person who's told you that to like do the detective work, and then you're like, by the way, I'm interested in marrying you. You have to be in a competition against 12 other women. Interesting. Going could mean jeopardizing my plans to reclaim my heritage and resurrect the House of Fate, but staying would guarantee Tauren's death, and the blood of his wish would be on my hands. Wouldn't you think that maybe if you were present at the castle and you predicted his death, that they might think it's just a plan for you to kill him yourself? She should just get away from there. This next one's quite weird. The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. I think this was a book that was on the top list of the best-selling free books on Kindle. I think I briefly looked at that list because I wanted to see like what people were buying from Stuff Your Kindle Day, and I saw this was free, so I got it. It's kind of dystopian sci-fi book that I believe I studied in school briefly when I was about 15, 16. I remember not enjoying it. It's basically about an alien invasion. When Martians land in England, panic and terror seizes the population. It was like a very big moment. Like, I admire what this man did. It's become a classic. It was very kind of forward thinking and has set kind of some groundwork within the sci-fi genre, but I didn't like the vibes basically. But it was free, so what am I talking about again? If I feel like revisiting that at some point. I do have a slight idea for a sci-fi book, so if I'm ever interested in doing anything with that, I should do my research. So I feel like it's good to have this at hand, even if it's one I don't love. And then lastly, for Stuff Your Kindle Day books, I have Kingdom of Iron and Wine by Candace Osmond. The sexy, addictive and heart-pounding first book in the Iron World series, first book in a trilogy, by USA Today best-selling author. She can actually write. A new adult fantasy romance perfect for fans of Sarah J. Maas, Holly Black and Jennifer L. Armentrout. She's half fae with sunlight in her veins. He's a vampire with a soul. It's a match made in magical hell, but Avery just can't seem to stay away. Avery Quinn's worst nightmares come true when the taunting shadows of her mind become real and an entire mythical world reveals itself to her. Iron World. Fae, shapeshifters, vampires, witches, all pitting themselves against one another in a formidable quest for ancient power. With her new circle of friends, a misfit crew of mythical beings, they work together to bring down an illegal black market ring of shapeshifters selling fae blood for vampires. But the further Avery sinks into this mythical domain and discovers secrets of her own past, the more she realizes she's not human at all. She's not even really fae. With each secret she uncovers, Avery grows closer to the darkness, because while her mortal heart may belong to the vampire she loves, her immortal soul was long promised to a dark fairy lord, and he's coming to collect. This sounds wild. That's it for my Stuff Your Kindle Day books. I'm having fun kind of like dipping into them here and there. They're just easy reads. Most of them are quite short. I don't have to stress about them basically, and if I don't like them, then who cares? Right, so now we're gonna get into the Kindle books that I actually paid some money for. These were all 99p, I believe. So first of all, Dance of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. It's the first book in a duology that went absolutely viral on TikTok. I've heard about this book for so long. I've heard about this author for so long. I've always been put off reading this because I think you're meant to read her other trilogy before reading this duology. But I've seen so many people just go into the duology that I kind of don't care at this point, and I want to see what it's about. I believe this is an enemies to lovers fantasy, and I'm excited to read, you know, a book that was published a few years ago that is still so well loved. Next I got Alone with You in the Ether by Olivia Blake. I own the first books in the Atlas 6 series, but I haven't actually read anything from this author. Alone with You in the Ether is meant to give those peak literary fiction, dare I say it, but Sally Rooney vibes that I love. So I'm excited for this one. It's about two people who have a relationship with one another and how they communicate with each other. The writing's meant to be beautiful. I just think this could be a new favourite. The mailman just came and I jumped out of my skin. The Villa. This is the book that I have, you know, I had like one thing about it. I was like, yeah, sold. This is based on that weekend where Mary Shelley, Percy Shelley, Lord Byron and one other guy who always gets neglected, who I've always forgotten the name of, went away, and Lord Byron was like, write me a story, and Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein. I was gonna say Dracula. No. The Vampire was written by the other guy. Percy Shelley wrote something, I don't know. But the main thing from that event was Frankenstein. This is based on that event, but it's an historical fiction book that's set in the 1970s, and instead of these writers we have a whole bunch of musicians together. It's set in a European country and the vibes sound incredible about like the tensions between the people, whatever kind of creative thing they create. I've heard about this book through Jenny, whose channel I have a link down below. Love her channel and I trust her recommendations. This has been on my want to read list for a long time, ever since its release, but the problem is that it's in hardcover and the hardcover is very expensive. 99p on Kindle was obviously immediately sold. Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry, I think that's the name of the author. This book is the absolute like pinnacle of the cozy fantasy subgenre that we've seen over the past couple of years. This book follows an orc. She used to be in a lot of battles and things like that. She was like a bit of a crusader, but she has since retired and she has laid down her battle axe and decided to open up a coffee shop in this little medieval village, and it's just meant to be good vibes. She like introduces them all to coffee, and it's got like a little bit of a sapphic romance in it. The cast is made up of kind of Dungeons and Dragons like creatures. I'm really excited about this one. I think this could be a favourite as well. The Last Tale of the Flower Bride is a book by Roshni Chokshi, who was a huge author back in old booktube days, but she's since released this book, and this is actually adult, I believe. It's a fantasy book. It has had some very mixed reviews. People either hate it or they love it, but I've heard that the writing is stunning, so I feel like this is one that I could kind of go 50-50, but I'm leaning towards the idea that I'd enjoy it more than I wouldn't enjoy it. Also heard amazing things about this book through several people, but one of which is Jenny. Let's go. And then finally I have Minor Detail by Adedinia Shibley, which is a book that I have read and reviewed. It was in my October wrap up, which again will be linked up on the screen down below. This book is kind of like a blend of non-fiction and fiction, and it's split kind of exactly 50% down the middle. The first part of the story we're following an Israeli soldier 1 year after the Nakba, and then the second half we're following a Palestinian as she is kind of navigating life under Israeli surveillance. That book was very good. I gave it 4 stars, but I would recommend checking out my review if you want to hear more about it and more of my thoughts about it as well. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for being here. I know it was a long one. I think we all need to take a moment for future me, who's gonna have to find all these photos to put on the screen and edit my rambling out of the video, because there was a fair bit of that as well. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, because that's how I can tell that you did. Without further ado, I will leave you in peace. Bye bye.